What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're taking a trip to Iceland. Visit Akureyri, the capital of North Iceland, a nation of its own. Coming at us from Siggy. Much love. I definitely appreciate the request. If you enjoy it, get over, show just Icelandic all the love in the world. Do that first. Matter of fact, go over there, show the love. Otherwise, we wouldn't have nothing to learn about. Says this will be my longest episode of my town series since I'm in a way describing a nation or a tribe of its own. The Akureyri people have their dialect and other cultural characteristics, but this is also my old hometown. Oh, you're going to have a very unique position. Say what? I'm in this unique position to say what the tourist brochures don't dare to mention. 100% get over, show just Icelandic, all the love in the world. Shout out again to Siggy. Let's go on a journey. If you're from this area, I want to know down below.
Hello and welcome to join me as we explore Akureyri, the capital of northern Iceland, the home of 20,000 people which many claim to be an ethnic group of its own. As usual, we start the journey on a map overlooking Iceland's deepest fjord, Eyjafjörður. It stretches 60 kilometers inland from north coast, surrounded by mountains, and at the bottom of the fjord we find Akureyri, which is also my old hometown. And as I often do in my town series,
big sky country, I'm telling you. This is like big sky, bigger than Montana skies. And Montana got some big sky. This is like wide open spaces country.
Start by asking what Icelanders think of when Akureyri is mentioned. And in this case, we have plenty to choose from. But first, I would say it is the beauty of the town. Often the good weather they have around there. But all Icelanders will say it is the accent. Because you can easily hear if an Icelander is from Akureyri, but Iceland has indeed only two dialects, the normal Icelandic dialect and the Akureyri dialect. But the only difference though is that the pronunciation is harder up north, way harder, like in the word milk, which sounds like a milk in Reykjavík, but milk in Akureyri. And there is lots to come about the quirks and quirks of the Akureyri tribe. So this was a fun video for me to make, both easier and harder than many of my other town visits that I'm sharing on my channel. It was easier since I have a lot of footage from all seasons to share with you this time, but harder since I had to go cherry picking, since there is just so much that can be said about the tribe up north. And I feel as I'm in a way introducing you to a nation of its own. A nation with its own language and own culture. And the fact that I have lived half my life in Reykjavík and the other half in Akureyri will provide you with unique inside information. Information that you won't find in any tourist brochure. But I will try to keep my approach tourist friendly as well, since after all, this is a town that has a lot to offer to the world. But let's start.
We're going on a real deep journey.
This is Helgi Magri, or Helgi the Slim, who settled all Eyjafjörður in the 9th century and built his own farm at a site that he called Kristnes, Christ Cape, around 12 kilometers south of Akureyri. But as for the town's development, the first buildings were made by Danish merchants, but the first residential house wasn't built until late 18th century, when Akureyri became a certified trading post. And the name of the town, Akureyri, originates from a field. Akur means a field. And many of those old fields can still be seen from this aerial photo from the 1950s. So the land under this town, like in most of Eyjafjörður, was and still is a good farmland. Or as an old Icelandic saying goes, it is where butter drips from each straw, even though we are only 100 kilometers away from the Arctic Circle. Danish influences would mark the town right from the beginning, and they taught the local villagers how to plant trees and flowers, and the gardening is today the main characteristic of the town. And the people around here, they still love everything Danish. And in fact, they love it so much that the King of Denmark visited them in 1907. And those were the glory days for the villagers that all gathered downtown to celebrate the king. And 65 years later, the Queen of Denmark came to visit Akureyri. So to honor her, they made a new highway through town and called it the Queen's Road, again, those were the glory days for the people in Akureyri.
Super interesting that they have a Queens Road, because there's also a Queens Road. Oh my goodness. When we went to the Bahamas, there was a road carved out for the royalty to come through way back when, and they only came through one time, and that's when the road was used, and now the road's fallen into kind of disrepair down there in the Bahamas. But it's kind of cool that there's people that are like, you still know, yo, we got to do something for this king, we got to do something for this queen, and that's been around. We can see it. The evidence is still here. Brand new roads, brand new buildings, brand new monuments. I absolutely think it's cool. You get to kind of track history that way. It's very interesting to me that, hey, down there and up here, y'all both got Queens Road.
And ever since, there has been this myth, or that the people around here speak Danish on Sundays. And I suspect that some of my family members are doing so, but they are reluctant to admit it.
They don't want to tell you that they do.
The Danes were eager to buy meat and wool products, so in the late 19th century, the local farmers formed a cooperative society, Coop, which made a strong impact in the growth and the development of the town. There was a leather factory here for a while, a clothing factory, shoe factory, and Akureyri was for a long time the main stronghold of the co-op policy and politics. But the old co-ops would not handle the retail competition that was later to come, and most of them went bankrupt. But in Akureyri, they lived on way longer. And there is still a certain conservatism among the townspeople. The people around here, they just ate what the co-op is sold, and if the co-ops didn't sell it, it had to be a suspicious product. So Akureyri was and still is a kind of matrix of its own. But I do happen to be an expert in this field, since my last job in Akureyri was a salesman job for the largest wholesale company outside the Reykjavik region. So I used to work closely with many food importers who always said the same thing about us up north. Selling something new to people in this town is hopeless, especially when it comes to food.
They're stuck in their ways.
I remember this so well as a young salesman, that always had the best of times when I had something new or some fresh ideas to sell. And during this period, products such as imported frozen pizzas were introduced for the first time to the market. So I gave it a go to try to sell frozen pizzas to the local merchants in Akureyri. But the replies would be something like this. This pizza thing, if we put this in our freezers, there will be less room for the sheep heads. And to describe the mentality around here even better, there is this good old Icelandic joke about people from Akureyri. And it originates from the traditional Icelandic Christmas bread that looks like this. Thin, crispy bread that we fry in sheep fat before Christmas. But the joke goes like this. What did the guy from Akureyri say when he saw a pizza for the first time? Who threw up on my Christmas tree? And this is a joke that tells a lot about the mentality up here. So
if we put these pizza things in our freezer, we're not gonna have any room for the sheep's head. Really? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily a fan of frozen pizza anyway, but I do like pizza, and if there's no Domino's or anything like that, we might have to go with the frozen pizza route. Just give it a chance. Give it a chance. I promise you. It's definitely not a Christmas bread with puke on it.
I gave up on the town, and I felt as it had no room for my ideas, and moved to Reykjavik, where I would work for a progressive retail company for the next 4 years, until I bought my own retail store that I would operate for the next 25 years. But my customers could recognize my accent all the time. It's just hard to get rid of it. And I didn't try it actually. But I am back in Akureyri now, but only for a while, and it gave me a chance to read this.
I have never heard of fish leather before, so I'm looking at some of these things that he's making.
But I am back in Akureyri now, but only for a while, and it gave me a chance to rediscover the town from a new perspective and enjoy the best of what it has to offer. Because Akureyri has plenty to offer, but things have sure changed a lot around here. The new generation is not as old-fashioned as our parents were, and there is more flow of people through town as Akureyri has even its own university now. This used to be a kind of closed society, but I heard it from students the other day that this has changed. They can actually go out pubbing and socializing nowadays with the local people, and that's an improvement for sure. But despite the extensive school structures that have been built up here in the recent decades, Akureyri is still an industrial town. It is the home of Iceland's largest fishery company and the largest brewery. They had a candy factory for many years, but it was sold and the new owner moved it to Reykjavik, and the townspeople have never forgiven him for moving their own chocolate brand to Reykjavik. The so-called industry smell in town comes from coffee roasting factory and also from the place where they smoke the traditional Icelandic hangikjöt. But meat processing is still very strong industry in and around town, and the inner market in Akureyri is still very much present. These people want to get their Sunday roast from a local company or a local farmer and enjoy a cup of coffee from the...
Ain't nothing wrong with that. One to get it local, one to get it fresh, one to get it without any kind of craziness in it. I wish I could buy everything that I eat local right from a farm. That would be the way to go down here. I think a lot of places are at that cusp right now, where it's the new generation is no longer as old-fashioned, as into tradition, as into things that we consider normal, and instead it's a lot of places are going to be going different routes with it nowadays. These new generation of kids are essentially free thinkers. They grew up with the internet. They grew up with information at your fingertips, and they know how to use it from a young age. It's going to be an age of technology like nobody's business. Sure, we've advanced a little bit since I was young, but nothing as what I think we're going to advance in the next 20 years. I don't know. I can just see it in my mind. With AI and everything else that they're coming out with, the whole world is up for a change now. I don't think that... Hopefully, we'll still have the people that want to hold on to some of those older values and older traditions and older... I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Local coffee roasting factory. And
anywhere near meat, I'm there. This sounds like it would be a great place for me so far.
For shopping, so they did.
It looks a little cold though.
The largest shopping mall outside the capital region not so long ago, and for a long time there was this pressure to open up an aluminium smelter in the fjord, but fortunately it never came to be. In my opinion, we should place such factories in ugly landscapes, and we just don't find that around here.
I'm saying you definitely don't find an ugly landscape around there. My goodness.
The recent town was shipbuilding, or a profession that my grandfather used to work in for a while. They even built freight ships here, but due to competition and cheap labor elsewhere, they only do repairs and modifications now. Akureyri is in the midst of an agricultural region, mostly dairy farms. So there is a big milk processing plant in town and other companies.
It's beautiful.
And some of the farmers offer tourist services like this one, who has this little coffee shop in a cowshed. And there is growing interest among Icelanders to buy products directly from the farmers. And in my opinion, that's the way to do it. And a tour to Akureyri should include a trip to some of the deep valleys of the fjord. And for those who have jeeps, it's possible to drive all the way up to the highlands from the innermost valley of Eyjafjörður. But as for the north part of the fjord, I have already covered all villages around there, so I'm leaving links for them. But the distance from the mouth of Eyjafjörður to the end of the innermost valley of the fjord is around 120 kilometers. And the whole of Eyjafjörður is a wonderland of its own, with plenty of things to do. And since I'm moving a bit into tourism, let's go skiing first. The mountain above Akureyri, Hlíðarfjall, offers some of the best skiing facilities in Iceland. And we start here.
It's definitely got enough snow.
It's always been called the ski hotel, even though it's not operated as such. But when they built it, they used the timber from the old hospital in town, and according to the staff there, it is a haunted house. But the locals don't mind, since ghosts of past times do simply thrive well in Akureyri. The slopes are of all difficulty levels, and the latest addition to the ski lifts is this one, elevating the guests to over 1,000 meters. There have been winters with very little snow in the recent decades, so they do have machinery to make snow now, but it seems though it's getting colder again, so it is getting easier to keep the mountain open. And winter sports are an important and growing part of the tourist infrastructure in town. And I do have a longer video online covering the ski slopes and linking to that. But a new motel is now being built by the roots of the ski slopes, or just around here with the mountain here in the background. So they have this great tourist spot there in the making. And this is how the Northern Lights looks from here. Usually I don't recommend that the people go Northern Light sightseeing near towns, but in the case of Akureyri, it's a photogenic town. So
it's a very photogenic town. My goodness.
It is an ice skating rink in Akureyri, so it is by far the best place in Iceland when it comes to winter sports. It is as simple as that. But let's move to summer view again as we move down the mountain after the snow is gone. There we find the Auto Club with new race tracks where they can do the stunts that they can't do elsewhere. And one of the highlights of the tourist season is the so-called car days in Akureyri, or a long weekend. That's also been driving some of the residents crazy due to the noise. And often
I can see that.
Driving.
You guys don't have as many things blocking the noise there. The noise is going to travel farther.
In town. So the car days are not the days to enjoy the stillness of the fjord as the smell of nature gives in to the smell of burned rubber.
You still gotta have fun things to do, though. That looks like fun.
But the most important part of the tourist industry is, of course, the local airport, which is also an international
That is a pretty damn interesting looking runway.
airport. It is still under construction as such, and the latest milestone was the installation of ILS landing system. So it is a constant battle to get funds for each and every step of the way, as they are moving into competition with the Keflavik International Airport. And there has always been a lack of scheduled flights between Akureyri and Europe, except occasionally. But the day I was doing this voiceover, it was announced that a new airliner will start to operate from Akureyri as of June 2022, and they will offer scheduled flights to Spain, UK, and of course Denmark, using an Airbus A319, and the airline name is Nicer. And I have the feeling that this might just be the beginning of a larger adventure for them up north. But the Akureyri Airport offers already scheduled flights to Reykjavik many times a day, and it's also possible to fly to the island Grímsey that sits on the Arctic Circle with 60 inhabitants and millions of puffins and other seabirds. It is not uncommon to see private jets parked there for a longer or shorter period, and fancy ships as well in the harbor, like in this case the sailing yacht A and the private plane that accompanies it. But this package was located here for 1-2 months in 2021. So to those of us who are into photography, we don't complain. But some of Iceland's best salmon rivers are nearby, so that helps to bring in the big fish when it comes to tourism. But we are done with the airport for now, so let's go downtown, starting with the Old Town. For me, it's one of the most beautiful parts of Akureyri. All the houses have been renovated, and midst in the Old Town we have the local museum that includes an old church built in 1846, moved to Akureyri and still used for weddings and such. And another part of the Akureyri Museum is the so-called Nonni Museum, but he was perhaps the most famous son of the town, the author of some of the most popular children books that were ever written by an Icelander, books that were made into a TV series in Germany, so his legend lives on. When the highway Queen's Road by the shoreline opened up, we got a new pond that grew to be a part of the appearance of the Old Town, or a place where we see people with cameras very frequently, And this is perhaps the best known silhouette of Akureyri, with the church in the background. For me, it's a kind of cliché photography, since there are just so many photos of out there. But a construction...
I guess it would get kind of weird seeing people come to your town, a place where you find you feel like everything is normal. And then you always see them taking the same old pictures from the same old spots. Most of you could probably tell them exactly where to go to get these pictures. It is beautiful, but at the same time, I could see it getting very old for the people that live there. Like, no matter where you live, there's something magic about where you live, 100%. To tourists, that's where it's magic. There's everywhere that I've ever been, I found something amazing about the place that everybody else was just like, yeah, that's normal. Like, that's just a way of life.
One company recently suggested a tall, futuristic building there, just behind this old house. And it would have changed the appearance of the town a whole lot, since there are no tall buildings in this part of town. And it would actually have improved the appearance of this part of town, because it needs it. But the townspeople voted against it, and in that case I'm glad that old values stayed on top of decision making. And let's swap to drone view. But those next shots are since last fall as a move on from the old town and into the town's center. We see the old primary school and the old theater, beautiful buildings.
Very
and
beautiful.
The old theater is still used, and the primary school was renovated like 20 years ago and looks nice today. And up on the hill we have the junior high school, so those houses are the old landmark buildings. But the Akureyri Church is perhaps the main landmark building today, well located above the town's center, and those long church steps in front of the church are sometimes used for different sports, like this annual competition. It's the most famous church steps in Iceland, just over 130. And the old town center includes this first shopping street in town, but it's more of a place to go pubbing or dining nowadays. And good old values are highlighted, like through the old Fuji film logo, which stands for those good old times before digital cameras and mobile phones. But strangely enough, many of the townspeople are, however, using mobile phones today. And the signature mountain of Akureyri can be seen well from downtown, but it is called Sulur, meaning pillars. And people around here, they love it. They love the mountain, they love to hike there, go there on bicycles, play around in jeeps, make love
How could
by the
you
roots of the
not?
mountain.
How could you not love to live there? Like, legitimately, I'm looking at it and it's like a wonderland of opportunity for fun things to do. Get out, go adventuring, people. Go see things, go meet people. Let them show you what they do for fun. That's always the best way to do it. There's nothing negative about this place that I can see. I look around here and it's like trash and there's freaking everything going on. We got to see so much poverty. We got to see so much people out there that just are having a hard time of things. And you look at this, it's like so quaint and quiet and peaceful and not as bustling as my big city. There's so much going on at once. It gets intense. There's so many cars on the road. But looking at this, it's like, oh my God, it's a fairy tale city. That's absolutely a place that I don't see anything wrong with visiting. I would go there and maybe would never leave. It's one of those places that it definitely looks like a place you could fall in love with in a heartbeat. Anybody that's into anything outdoors, go on.
Was the sunset from there, even do the whole package in a day. They even tried to get Paramount Pictures to put this mountain in the famous movie opening theme, but no luck so far. But I do think it's a good marketing idea for the town though. And Akureyri has of course its own town hall square. That's where everything is bustling with life during summers. And the look of the square is a constant subject of debate. But they have changed it every now and then. Not always for the better. But that's not the main issue. It's always nice to be there when the weather is good. When it comes to new building downtowns, they are trying to maintain the old look, but it goes so and so. Could be better, could be worse. But as for my taste, it's a bit crowded. since I'm the type that wants to see something else than my neighbor's window. When I look
Yes, absolutely. I need a little bit of
Iceland offers
space.
plenty of view. This new rounded building is, however, a bit from out of space. It is the town's cultural center, but the old theater isn't that big, so this is the town's main concert hall. And it's a good house and well equipped as such, but even for the millions spent there in concrete and sound systems, Akureyri is perhaps better known for this tiny little concert place in the basement of one of the oldest houses by the downtown shopping street, and it's called the Green Hat. It was my uncle that established this little concert place, and he has never had any troubles getting the best musicians in Iceland to play there, even if it's a small place that doesn't sell that many tickets.
If you book them, they will come.
So it is a concert place with an old soul, and during this visit one of the oldest and biggest bands in Iceland was playing, or Mesoforte, an instrumental jazz funk fusion band from 1977. Those guys are still touring the world when they feel like it, but despite all the doors that are open to them, doors that can sell way more tickets than here in the basement, they come like the others because this is by far the best music club in Iceland, and the sound there is great. So I'm going to let the beginning of the concert roll on while I show you some of my downtown shots that I didn't manage to squeeze in elsewhere.
Zazzle. It's just so damn picturesque. It looks like a place that you want to be. Like, oh my God, let me go. Even from up above, though, it looks more organized. Even in the big city portions of it, it looks way more organized than our layout here.
For water sports, but the locals call the ocean in front of the old town the pond, and it's a popular playground. There is this very active sailing club in town, and those boards are getting quite popular. They are all around
water
town,
is cold, I'm sure.
They have plenty of sport boats, fishing boats, and kayaks around. I used to love to go fishing there, especially in the spring when you could catch a trout on its way to the river. And the kids are still at it today, like here, fishing from the docks just by the new cultural house. And in this mountain, behind the pond, we see this man-made hot waterfall that needs to be explained. But a few years back, a local private company made a tunnel through the mountain in order to create a safe road connection to the northeast of Iceland. The old road lies over a mountain pass, so to show you what we are dealing with, we move on through the tunnels from Akureyri to East Iceland, and we drive back over the old road into Eyjafjörður. And the mountain pass looks innocent today, but it was never a safe road as for snow, so the tunnels have created this continuous business region. But it turned out to be a disaster to make them. Costs doubled as a construction crew hit hot water by a surprise, and the hot water explains this hottest waterfall in the world. But it is about to be cut off, and the water will be used for natural baths that will open up soon. And
that would be awesome.
For sure. But as for many of the old people in town, the tunnels meant even more problems. The old generation doesn't travel that much, nor do they read the news they don't need to hear. So after the tunnels opened by the old highway out of town, the old people would sometimes drive into them by accident, like during Sunday trips. And in many cases, these old people would just freak out since they believed that those were the tunnels of light, and they were on their way to meet their maker.
It's terrifying.
But this is getting better. The old people have got used to the tunnels, and despite the loss from this somewhat of a failed project, we have the tunnels and the hot water. And close by, where the waterfall is, we find the largest settlement of elves and hidden people in Iceland, according to many old and new tales. But there we are into this rather large subject that I will be talking about in another video.
Hold up. We got to learn about the elves now.
So I'm leaving that one for later. But stories from this region will be used in that one for sure due to how remarkable they are. And this mountain with its tunnels and hot waterfall and the hidden people is called Vaðlaheiði. And from Vaðlaheiði we find many good viewing spots overlooking the town, the ski mountain and Mount Sulur. This is what you often get, or cruise ships making a stopover, but the most popular tours from here are to the waterfall Goðafoss and the mighty Dettifoss. That is my favorite waterfall in Iceland. Not the sugary sweet waterfall type, but the powerful type, and shrouded in geological mystery, like the nearby canyon Ásbyrgi. In fact, we have some of Iceland's most spectacular geological formations close by, formations that will be the subject of some of my upcoming videos. The climate in Akureyri is actually material for a separate video because it's surprisingly good despite the high latitude. It's completely different than Reykjavik, and personally I like the climate here way better than back south. We often get real summers around here, and the winters are truly winters. So the contrasts between seasons are way sharper than Reykjavik, where winters can be described as constant boredom until the so-called summer comes. Then it gets just a bit better for a few months.
Constant boredom.
What I like the most about the weather in Akureyri is how calm it gets, especially during evenings. That's when the pond starts to reflect the mountains around. That's when I never want to move. Or until I hear the local people talk about technology. That's when I snap back. And on the downside, the winters tend to be long, and the spring tends to be cold from the northern winds from the Arctic. And it's not good for the mentality. But I have this uncle that recently moved up north, and during his first winter, that was pretty hard on us. He wrote and published a book of poets about the winter, a book that turned out to be cold, dark, and sarcastic, just like that winter. But I think he is recovering little by little. So snow removal cost has been hard on the town for the last years, but it comes with the territory. But as for winter photography, this is a wonderful place, especially in December when the snow is fresh, and again in February when the days are getting longer again. But January is too dark for my taste, but the summer always comes. People flock out to work in their gardens, and Akureyri once again sticks out as the greenest town in Iceland. In fact, it's getting a bit crowded, so they have some restrictions now when it comes to the height of the trees, because people are just going, crazy with this tree planting stuff. But the most
We've gone overboard, people. We've gone overboard.
The northernmost botanic garden in the world, where you can find over 7,000 native and foreign species, and it's one of the main pride of the town. Endless source of photogenic scenes, summer, autumn and winter. But this time, shot last year, the local brass band was trying to sell them a new brass band music idea in Akureyri, and I just had to see that. So let's see if Akureyri is indeed a funky town.
Hey, 100%, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you go show Just Icelandic all the love in the world. I'm already subbed up. I've already smashed the like button. You have to do the same thing. This is probably one of the most intriguing walks through a city that we have seen, like, ever.
And even
So
though people seem
detailed.
to be a bit backwards and old-fashioned around here, they make up for it in other ways. Like I've felt so well when I've been walking around the town with my camera backpack often and tripod. I have noticed how friendly people are as I'm passing by, the total stranger I am here now. And as I'm passing by, they almost always say, good day, the standard Icelandic greeting. And it's very easy to get into chats about the weather and such. And the same goes for traffic. It's slower than in Reykjavik. People are not in the same hurry, and the drivers generally show great consideration to pedestrians. And the town is also well known for the friendly traffic lights. And when it's lunch or dinner time, the traffic drops to almost nothing, since these people eat at home, if they can. But when it comes to food, I have to mention one strange tradition that developed differently here than in Reykjavik, and that is the fast food tradition. It took over 10 years to teach these people how to eat hamburgers, so the first burger joints were short-lived. And finally, it was a local drive-through shop that picked up this weird burger thing idea and made it into their own. And that was when things started to move. The Akureyri fast food industry developed a whole new way of serving both burgers and Iceland's fast food number one, the hot dog. The Akureyri hot dog is deep fried and served with melted cheese and fries and spices. And when they serve burgers, they put the fries in between the bread and the burger.
Why?
This idea is spread out, so there are places in Reykjavik offering this.
Where did that even come from? Let's put the fries on the burger.
Akureyringur, referring to someone that lives in Akureyri. So again, even those people seem to be backward in many fields of life, they do have this wild side as well. So let's move to sports. There are two major sport clubs in town, but they have worked more together in the recent years, and the sports infrastructure is excellent. Just like the swimming pool that has been one of the prides of the town for the last decades, located just by one of the 3 camping grounds in and around town, but there are plenty of options to choose from when it comes to accommodation. And overall, nowhere outside the capital region can you find this good selection of entertainment, culture, and other options for guests.
Seems like an all-around amazing place.
It is the perfect location to discover the 900-kilometer-long Arctic coastway, chase the midnight sun and the northern lights. But I have to warn you though, if you are on the road chasing the light or the weather, do not call the local people if you want to check the weather. Use the internet, use webcams, do not call them. And that's because of this weakness that these people have. They do not only lie about the weather all the time, they even have a Facebook group called Crazy Good Weather in Akureyri, where they state that the weather is always
It's
great.
always great.
But
It's going to be
this
great.
is an old habit since long before the internet. When someone would call up north and ask about the weather, they would always lie. It's always good weather there. But then came the internet, and the people of Akureyri, they just hated this thing for the first years. And this group with people who are still lying about the weather has 8,000 members in a town with 20,000 people. So that should tell you a story.
Look on the internet. Don't go believing the
in
people.
Akureyri. And my name is Gylfi, sending you best regards from my old hometown Akureyri, where the weather is almost always great.
Oh my God, Gylfi, this was one of the best walkthrough voiceover videos I've ever seen. Legitimately, I learned a lot. It seems like a great town. If you're from there or from that area, let me know the things that you love about it. Let me know the things that you dislike about it. 100% get over, show Just Icelandic all the love in the world. Shout out to Siggy for the request. I appreciate it. Till the next one, I'm the Combustible. You guys be happy, healthy, safe. I love you to the moon and back. Peace.